Hello and welcome to the World Report with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making global headlines this Monday. The US has paused its strikes on Iran for 2 consecutive evenings after senior military officials. They reportedly advised President Donald Trump to halt the bombing campaign. At the same time, diplomatic efforts have intensified to prevent the nearly 5-month-old conflict from spiraling back into a full-scale war. Trump is now weighing both military and diplomatic options, while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to visit the White House on Tuesday for high-level talks on the next phase of the crisis. Meanwhile, here's a report.
A fragile pause is holding between the US and Iran after 2 weeks of intense attacks. According to reports, Washington has not carried out any new strikes on Iran since Thursday night, while Tehran has not targeted American bases in the region since Friday.
These attacks continue until 2 nights ago. However, over the past 2 nights, the Americans stopped their attacks. Since, as I said, our strategy was fundamentally retaliatory, we also halted our retaliatory operations.
But tensions remain high in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Tasnim news agency reported that an oil tanker exploded in the strait after hitting a naval mine. Reports suggest the tanker struck the mine after moving away from a shipping route designated by Iranian authorities. Meanwhile, Oman is leading efforts to keep tensions from rising further. Bureau Report, NDTV World.
US President Donald Trump has rejected claims that Washington is facing a problem with its depleting weapon stockpile, adding that we have far more munitions than anyone in the world and far more than we need. Here's what Washington's envoy to the UN said about concerns pertaining to America's weapon stockpile.
As the president said, we are locked and loaded. Even more assets are going into theater. But he's giving talk some space. He's giving it a little bit of room. We've had both Oman and Iran and a number of our other negotiators engaged at every level, from the most senior levels all the way down to the technical level over the past few weeks and particularly in the past few days.
Meanwhile, here's a special NDTV World Report taking a look at the current status of America's weapon stockpiles.
US President Donald Trump has brushed aside reports that Washington is running low on missiles after its campaign against Iran. The White House says America's military remains unmatched, but experts are raising serious questions. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, by the time the first phase of the US-Iran war ended in April, the US had used at least 50% of its THAAD ballistic missile interceptors, nearly half of its Patriot air defense interceptors, and roughly 30% of its Tomahawk cruise missiles. An enormous expenditure for a phase of the war that was only a few months long. The bigger concern is what comes next. Replacing these weapons won't happen overnight. According to reports in the US media, only 15 Tomahawk missiles are being produced every month. On the other hand, around 20 Patriot interceptors are delivered monthly. And not a single THAAD interceptor is scheduled for delivery in 2026. The CSIS estimates it could take 3 years or even longer for the US to restore its missile stockpiles to pre-Iran war levels. That poses a difficult question for Washington. Can America continue to deter China in the Indo-Pacific, support Ukraine in Europe, protect Israel in West Asia, and still fight another major war? President Trump insists the reports are wrong, but the figures suggest a different reality. In a world facing multiple flashpoints, America's biggest challenge may no longer be firing missiles, but rebuilding the arsenal before the next war begins. Bureau Report for NDTV World.
War in Ukraine has once again put civilians and international crews alike at risk. This after a merchant vessel carrying Indian nationals was hit at the strategic Black Sea port of Odessa. The strike comes as Russia and Ukraine both they continue a fierce battle over the control of key infrastructure, with both sides now claiming major attacks against each other. Take a look at this next report.
A merchant vessel carrying 4 Indian nationals has been hit at Ukraine's port of Odessa. The Indian embassy in Kiev says 2 crew members are safe, while details about the remaining 2 are still awaited. The embassy says it is closely monitoring the situation and is in contact with authorities for further updates. The vessel MV Aegean Ragnar was struck as attacks on Ukrainian port infrastructure continue. Odessa has repeatedly come under fire since the conflict began in 2022 due to its strategic importance for trade and military logistics. Russia says its forces targeted Ukrainian military-linked infrastructure along the Black Sea coast. Moscow has claimed strikes on ports including Odessa, Chornomorsk and Izmail. Ukraine, meanwhile, says it has pushed back Russian offensives and destroyed Russian equipment. Zelensky has also accused Moscow of seeking additional military support from North Korea. This includes troops and missile systems. According to Zelensky, preparations for these additional forces are underway in Russia's Voronezh region, which is close to the Ukrainian border. The region is a key industrial and military hub with aerospace and defense manufacturing facilities. Bureau Report for NDTV World.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Sunday that New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani is fomenting hate by calling the Prime Minister a war criminal who should be arrested over the war in Gaza if he visits the city for the United Nations General Assembly. Netanyahu said he intends to be in New York in September to address the annual UN gathering of world leaders, despite the mayor's suggestion that he is not welcome. Mamdani said last week that while New York City does not have legal authority to execute an arrest warrant issued by the world's top war criminals court, he encouraged the federal government to do so.
Look at what he's doing. He's fomenting hate. He's supposed to be the mayor of all New Yorkers, Jews, Christians, Muslims, everyone. But he's trying to turn one group against the other, and he's foisting hate and fear. I speak to Jewish Americans in New York, and they're afraid right now. And I don't think it's accidental.
At least 3 people were killed and 4 others were wounded in a shooting at a food festival in Seattle, just a block from the city's iconic Space Needle. The Seattle's mayor office confirmed that cops had 1 suspect in custody. Authorities believe 2 people were shooting at each other as 2 guns have also been recovered. Now, according to the police, 1 suspect is still absconding. According to a Seattle Times report, meanwhile, the gunfire erupted around 6 p.m. at the Seattle Center during the Bite of Seattle festival. Victims have been transported to the Harborview Medical Center. The shooting happened at the time Seattle Center was hosting its annual Bite of Seattle festival, featuring hundreds of local vendors and live music performances.
I was about to grab me a boba from the boba stand. I heard about, I'd say, close to 12. Sounded a little bit like firecrackers at first. It kept, took like, I'd say, a half a second pause, and I heard a lot more. I realized it was semi-automatic. Probably it sounded like a switch. I looked to my left. I saw at least 1 individual with a switch, semi-automatic. I saw another one that was 2. That's when I heard over that those shots fired. That's when I took off around the corner. I heard that I saw at least 1 person go down. I know it was a mom that went down. I'm not sure who else was injured.
A raging wildfire in southwest France forced the evacuation of 55,000 people overnight Sunday, bringing the total forced out of their homes to a staggering 220,000 or 220,000 in one region alone. This comes as flames crept even closer to the wine region city of Bordeaux. Shifting and gusting winds as well as arid conditions, they together complicated massive efforts to limit the spread of the monster blaze burning out of control, in fact, since midweek in France's Gironde region, where Bordeaux is in fact located. Authorities issued overnight evacuation orders for 5 more localities southwest of the historic city. Evacuees will not be allowed back to their towns and villages until the blaze is brought under control.
All the authorities and the medics have been really amazing, and there are loads of volunteers, and we're very grateful for all that.
Sunday morning, I'm west of Bordeaux, just north of the village of Marcheprime. Fires continue to burn through woodland areas, creating a smoky, serene scene of the morning sunrise. The fires here are small, but still moving steadily, and they're in patches, but creating lots of white smoke out here you can see everywhere that covers the morning sky. These are what firefighters are still battling. It's a large battle that has yet to be contained.
Pope Leo XIV expressed his solidarity with those affected by the devastating wildfires in France and Spain on Sunday, inviting faithful to pray for those affected and rescue workers as well.
A fronte dei devastanti incendi che in questi giorni hanno interessato varie località della Francia e della Spagna, manifesto la mia vicinanza e invito tutti a pregare per le persone colpite e per il lavoro dei soccorritori.
Meanwhile, a flash flood triggered by intense short-duration rainfall in Weiyuan County, northwest China's Gansu province, has killed at least 10 people and injured 23 over the weekend. According to state broadcaster CCTV, the flood struck a valley at around 2 p.m. on Sunday after heavy rain upstream caused water levels to surge, trapping nearby campers and also sweeping away vehicles parked along the riverbank. Witnesses recalled that a sudden torrential downpour swept through the river valley when the disaster hit, carrying silt and rocks rushing down from the surrounding mountains and upstream, and some were hit falling rocks before they could escape to safety. Well, it's time we slip into a short break with that. Stay tuned, there's much more lined up. We'll be right back. Hollywood star Reynolds has become the latest Marvel star to pop up at the studio's big Comic-Con panel. The Canadian star came out dressed as fully denim Deadpool to beg for a role in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday. Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige, who by the way hosted the panel, called on someone in the audience with the swords to ask the question of the Doomsday cast during Saturday night's big event. At first, it wasn't clear whether this was indeed Reynolds because the actor didn't move his mask. Perhaps it was a body double. Reynolds just recorded an audio message played in the room. However, Reynolds later posted photos of himself in the costume to his Instagram stories, calling himself Jean Paul.